Okay, we're here today with Walter Nash. Walter is a Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame slash Arizona Drag Racing legend. He's got a lot of history in Arizona, not just drag racing, but racing in general. But all said and done, he's probably bitten by the drag racing bug as hard as anybody. So, welcome.
Thank you.
And when somebody calls you a legend, how do you take the being called a legend?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. One, it means somebody respects what you did. Number two, it means you're old.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get it. Nobody gets out easy, so you might as well take it and enjoy it, because we're going to talk to people, and we're going to talk about your love for racing, all things racing, and drag racing as well. So, where are you from?
Born in Phoenix. I've been living in Tucson since 1966.
Wow. So you unhooked the hitch from Phoenix and moved down to Tucson. What brought you to Tucson?
Well, when I was in high school, I went to high school in Scottsdale and decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And ASU did not have a law school, so I planned on going to ASU a couple of years, coming down to Tucson, and then going to the U of A Law School. And when I got out of law school, I got a job offer better in Tucson than the one I got in Phoenix, and been here ever since.
Wow. So you got a great profession, probably a lot of interesting stuff. That'd probably been a whole other interview on things you could talk about.
And some we can.
Yeah, and some we can. Like I said, no, it's a good thing. So, I'm not saying we have witness protection going on, but we have to be confidentiality. We always have to respect. So, well, let's talk about the racing part of it. So, you grew up in Scottsdale, and you went to high school where?
Arcadia.
You were Titan.
I was.
My brother was a Titan as well. I went to Tavon.
My mother taught there. I went there as well.
There you go. So what a small world it is. So, you got interested. When did you first get interested in cars?
As I reflect back on it, my orthodontist was a sports car guy and had all these sports car magazines in his office that he would give to me. So I sort of became interested in sports cars, and that was kind of my focus. I was in high school. It was probably 1963, and we had a little sports car club. Nobody had sports cars because we couldn't afford them, but we had a little club. We were putting on a display as part of a school carnival. My mother had a friend who said, I know this guy with a race car that'll probably bring and display it. So I called the guy, and he brought the car over, and it was Al Eschenbaugh, and he brought the black dragster that was such a success in the early Arizona days. And that's how I got hooked on drag racing. About the same time, one of my high school classmates' dad was part of the money behind the opening of Beeline. So a lot of us in high school would go out to Beeline. So those two things kind of came together, and my life pretty much has been downhill ever since.
So you went to, at Arcadia High School, did you know Steven Spielberg? Because that's a big deal.
He was younger than I.
Okay.
Came through later. I did not know him.
Okay. Well, I was hoping you might have been an inspiration for him for his talent.
No.
You won't take any credit on that?
No.
Okay.
None.
So the interesting thing is, I remember the school was very futuristic. It had it looked like a flying saucer in the middle of the campus, and what as a kid, that's what I looked at. I don't want to get too far off the subject, but what a great school you went to. And there's a lot of people that went there that became in both business and racing and other, Arcadia graduated a lot of people, helped develop what Arizona became. And so you have a lot of pride in that. So you were in your sports car club, Beeline Drag Race opens up, you start going to the drag races.
I was there probably every Saturday night. I'd be hanging out with Albert, Larry, met Red, Dean Turk, all of the Arizona posse. Was kind of hardcore fuel racing fan. When I didn't have the money to get in, I'd park in the street on Beeline Highway and watch over the fence. So I spent a lot of time there. When I came down to the U of A in 1966, I sort of got away from racing. I was focused more on my studies and then through law school. And then when I got out, I really wanted to go back and race a dragster, but I just didn't have the money. I was a brand new lawyer and had $0. So I decided to go dirt bike racing. And a guy named Al Eschenbaugh, again, was running a dirt bike store in Phoenix and sold me a little bike, and I started motocross racing, and that went into desert racing and racing in Baja. And I did off-road cars, started racing a Formula Ford, and I mentioned to some folks earlier, When I got a regional SCCA license to road race, my driving school instructor was Kenton Greth, Red Sun. So the circles kind of overlapped again.
It was meant to be.
It was. I sort of got out of racing in the late 80s. Just it sort of had run its course, sold everything, and decided I was going to stop. And unfortunately, I got invited to the 1980 or 91 Beeline Drag Racers reunion up in Phoenix. And I saw a lot of old friends, saw people that I remembered back in the day. And 2 weeks later, I was at Frank Hawley School in Florida learning how to drive a Super Comp dragster. A couple of weeks after that, I owned one and raced several different dragsters for a number of years after.
You're bitten by the bug again.
Yeah, it was the T-shirt that says "It's the worst kind of drug." Had it right.
Right. Wow. So through the years, you've raced all in different venues, different types of racing. The dirt bike racing definitely is an Ironman type of sport. You know, it's you and the bike and Mother Nature, and maybe somebody close to you if they get close to you. But how do you, when your mindset to dirt bike racing thing, when you put you went to Frank Hawley School, you have your own dragster, your Super Comp car. What was your mindset to going racing? What did you?
Well, it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to try. My dad and I, when I was going to ASU, always wanted to do a little dragster, a little D-gas dragster, which was popular at Beeline, and we just didn't have the money. So it was sort of the fulfillment of something I wanted to do with my dad, who had died by then. But it was just a hell of a lot of fun. Every different kind of racing I've done has its own particular magic. Desert racing is you're sort of alone. You do a 500-mile desert race, and it's you against the desert. Road racing was extremely close. You had to hit the marks all the time. Off-road car racing was much like the dirt bikes, but not as much fun and way more expensive. But drag racing was probably the most visceral of the sports. It was high intensity, really a condensed experience. And frankly, through the years, other than dirt biking, the crowd at drag racing was probably the most collegial and the most friendly of all.
So definitely an environment of enthusiasts that love what you're doing, that even if they've never really gone down the track, they've all kind of pushed the throttle a bit harder on their cars a couple times driving down the street, and they like to picture themselves as a racer, and drag racing is certainly something they can get involved with. So when you got back into drag racing, did you see anybody? I mean, it's 20, almost 30 years since you got back in. People coming along. Anybody you remember as a younger person that you see now that's doing really well at it, or in drag racing or local racer that you knew back then?
Well, I'm not too dialed in now with the younger folks that are coming into drag racing here. I still hang out with a lot of the folks I raced with, Chuck and Cindy Hawk, Danny Rusk, a lot of those folks that were there and were helpful to me. We lost one of the people that was really instrumental in getting me back into drag racing, Tom Keenan, last week.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
He passed away. In fact, he's going to be inducted tonight into the Drag Racers Hall of Fame. But he was really a big part of me getting back into it. But some of the people that dirt bike raced would transition to other things. Of course, Kenton was a really top-level road racer, who, of course, is still very dialed into drag racing with his dad. One humorous story about Kenton. I had raced a Formula Ford probably for about a year and a half, was up at Firebird running an oval track race, and was out in morning practice and thought, boy, I'm really going fast. I'm coming out of NASCAR 3 and 4. I'm within 2 inches of the wall going like a bat out of hell. And all of a sudden I saw something next to me, and Kenton had pulled up into space. I wasn't as close to the wall as I thought. I looked over, he gave me a quick wave and just disappeared into turn 1. So I quickly realized I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was.
It felt really good till somebody was next to you?
But I was still having fun. And
yeah.
That's the main thing. That's the way I've always approached racing, is I may finish 12th out of a field of 13, but if I have fun, that's what counts.
So with your profession, you've raced in a lot of different racing. You look at the future of racing in general. I think you're a little bit more aware of challenges to automotive racing in as we go forward, whether it be government intervention or the pandemic or encroachment of population upon to the drag strips or at racetracks. What do you see in the future of drag? I mean, how do you see it? Do you ever think about we need to do this to go for? Because part of you being a legend is identifying what you want to do and doing it. And I think right now drag racing is at a crossroads where we're losing a lot of tracks. Yeah, because of what would it take for somebody? Would you advise somebody to get into it now? And if you did, how would you tell them?
Well, making racing a business leads you into how do you make a small fortune? You start with a large one. It's not very cost effective right now. The biggest thing I think drag racing needs to do, which a lot of racing needs to do, is cost containment. Racers consistently shoot themselves in their own foot. They try new things. The people that run the organizations don't restrict rules, they don't restrict development, and all of a sudden it's too expensive to race. So instead of 20 cars trying to qualify for a 16-car field, you're lucky if you get 14 or 15. And that's going to continue in drag racing until the NHRA really gets control of some cost figures. They've tried to do that. I know Steve Gibbs, when he was running the show, was really pushing hard for that. Dale Armstrong had some great ideas to try to contain the costs, and for some reason NHRA just doesn't seem to want to wrap their arms around it and do it. And that cuts across road racing, oval track racing. NASCAR is having economic troubles. And the more costly you make it, the harder it is for a sponsor to come in and pay the tab. If you can run a car for $1 million a year, you have more sponsors who can pay that than if it takes you $12 million a year. So dollars and cents is the biggest issue racing confronts.
What you brought up is very, very good points. We see in racing that, at least because we're so focused on drag racing, and that's where my main love is. I see big time growth in nostalgia racing, and nostalgia funny cars, altereds, even nostalgia front motor dragsters. Now they've been around long. I mean, rear motor dragsters. They've been around long enough. How would you? I mean, the mentality there is that while there's still some people that go overboard, there's only so many. There's rules that keep people from going super crazy, and makes it more affordable.
Well, one of the keys to the growth of nostalgia racing is they've got a small single fuel pump and they've got a smaller mag and a single mag. And you restrict the fuel, you restrict the spark. You can't feed the fuel to it. You can't blow the motor up as much. And spectators don't care if a car is going, two cars are side by side at 250 than if they're 320. It's the racing that matters. Although you're starting to see a lot of rules creep in nostalgia, and it's dropping the car counts a little bit there too. So if they don't harness that, it's going to create a problem. But if the NHRA adopted that as more of a model for the big show, I think you'd see a heck of a lot more cars coming out and a lot more close racing.
Your love for racing, and this is what we do. We love the sport. Some people might say it might be we're not quite right. We're a bubble off from level, whatever. But we love racing. We love in drag racing. Who have been your, we talk about Regreth and Ali Shimba, but through the years, the drag racers you remember meeting and.
Well, there's so many up in the Phoenix area. J.T. Stewart, when he ran Big Red with Dave Kythe, Jack Dare, Dave Beck. So many of those fuel racers, Dean Turk up there. Arizona used to be a real hotbed. You'd go out to Beeline and there'd be 15 or 16 cars trying to qualify for an 8-car show, all local cars. And I don't know if there's anybody that stands out anymore. I've had the longest relations with Albert and Larry until he passed. Red and I have become very, very close. In fact, I still see Albert pretty regularly.
Definitely another legend-worthy person. Albert has a lot to do with the Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame, and and keeping the memories and the tribute alive to people for their love of racing. You've been in Tucson. You've seen the growth of racing in Tucson. You raced at did you ever race at the old Tucson Dragway?
Never did.
Okay.
Never did.
So this track, by the way, we're here at Tucson Dragway for the reunion race, Tucson, the old Tucson Dragway reunion race at the new Tucson Dragway today. What do you see? I mean, you got a nice facility here. What do you enjoy about coming out still to the race?
Well, one of the biggest things I think this drag strip has is Jim Hughes and Matt DeYoung running it. They're racers at heart. And you've got to be a businessman to successfully operate a track and keep it open. But they still know what it is to race, and they still keep it fun. They keep it low key. The racing's hardcore, but it's still a lot of fun. I hope to see continued growth. I hope Jim and Matt don't get tired of the struggle. Any of us, and I ran a motocross track for a while down here, but anybody who's run any racetrack knows that it's the key to depression and an empty wallet. So hopefully they stay with the fire in their belly.
So one of the things that, in our world of internet, social media, we find that we have a lot of keyboard experts. Oh, they should do this or they should do that. But in the basic word of how to keep your local track alive is to support it. Go out and race, get involved. How would you, if somebody were to walk up to you today and say, I want to start drag racing, what would your path for them?
Tell them whatever car you've got, come out. Don't plan on racing the first couple of times you come. Talk to people, meet the people in tech, get to know them, get up at the starting line, kind of see what it's like, make friends with somebody who races, have them kind of take you through it, then come on out and have them lead you through it with your car. It really is the lowest barrier to entry of any kind of racing. You can do it with a street car, you don't have to have a race vehicle, and it can still be done on a pretty low budget. No racing is cheap, but some of it is way cheaper than others.
I was fortunate to be mentored in my path through the industry by Everett Gusick, and in the family. And one of his Everettisms was, and other people said, is speed costs money. How fast do you want to go?
Yeah. How much speed can you afford?
Right. So it's there, but there's in drag racing, there's a place for everybody. Whether you want to have a top-notch fuel team, you have the money to do it fine. But if you want to come out and bracket race, and that's the backbone of our racing. So the encouragement of bringing new people to races. That's how we keep racetracks open. Going forward, you're here for the race reunion here at Tucson Dragway. You get a chance to, this year we're doing under the COVID year, so we're not, it's kind of limited that people are going to be here. But this is an event I've always looked forward to coming out and seeing the people, and and I'm sure you do it's the same for you. Do you still see people from time to time at this event that you probably haven't seen in a while, or you're still alive type of,
You do a quick head check to see who's still with us, sadly, and I don't mean to minimize that people are passing, but it's a good way to reconnect with folks. It's a good way to renew acquaintances with people that you don't regularly see in your day-to-day life, professionally or socially. It's just a good time, which is when Danny Owens wanted to restart this some years ago and came to me and wanted some help. That was our main focus. It needed to be low-key, it needed to be fun, it needed to be about the people.
I think that's very key, that for the people who love the sport, it's a give and take. I mean, you have to, promoter does, you said large fortune, start with a large fortune, you'll get a small fortune out of it eventually. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but if it's run to the right scale. It seems to me this track is, through the economy, is done pretty well. Then we have slowed down, we have certain things that affect it, but overall this has been a mainstay for not only what Jim and Matt have developed into not a local track, but I live in Phoenix and I consider this my home track.
And they've done a really good job catering to the back gate crowd. And that really is the core of bracket racing, low-key local racing, is your back gate crowd, your racers who bring their friends, bring their family. And I know they've done some larger events here, they've done divisionals here, they book in some shows that bring in a lot of front gate spectators, but they've done a great job keeping the local grassroots racing alive and bringing in new people to it.
Well, they've done a good job of putting Tucson Dragway on the map with the no prep and the street outlaws and all that. But for those who want to get started, you don't have to be a no prep guy or street outlaw to come out and race. Support your local drag strip.
Just come out and play.
So, all in all, what a great walk you've had in your life of the different things you've experienced.
It's not over yet. Come on.
No, 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 no. I promise you. Nobody's planning. Nobody's got any. We don't have a big surprise for you when you walk out the door. We want you, we want to see you again, for quite a while. But there's your chance to say, what do you miss most about racing? What was racing you like the most?
What I miss the most is the rush when you're in the seat. Until you've done it, nobody understands how costly that is time-wise and to an extent money-wise. But that's what I miss. And I've had a host of friends who've said, come on out and drive my dragster in a test and tune, or drive my shifter cart, or come play with my off-road car. And I know if I ever get back in the seat again, I'll be slapping my forearm and getting ready to take that drug again. So
Well,
I just avoid that.
Well, you're certainly much younger than Carmesini's and a couple other, that are still doing it. There's still room for you to come back out.
Well, at 74, my window is closing.
Okay, you're in for longevity now instead of we certainly enjoy having you here. I know that through your life experience, you've also mentored a lot of people. You met a lot of people. Your friendships. Part of what makes what we do so great is we have so many people from different walks of life love the same thing, and everyone brings something to the party. And you definitely bring something to the party with your experience, and your knowledge base, and your love for racing, and all this. The love for the people you've been around, how you've embraced it. All this is why you're an Arizona drag racing legend, and we really have enjoyed having you here today.
Thank you.